In 2017, the Georgia Department of Public Health reported 31,991 abortions took place in the state. In 2014, approximately 8.6 of all U.S. abortions occurred in the state, with an estimated 20% of pregnancies in Georgia ended in an abortion. In the same year, Georgia had 28 abortion providing facilities, and 17 of those were clinics. Currently, pregnant Georgia women can have an abortion up to 20 weeks. However, with the new heartbeat bill signed by Governor Kemp, after a fetal heartbeat is detected, which is as early as 6 weeks, and when most women are aware they're even pregnant, it will be deemed illegal and thus not allowed. On today's episode of In Contact, we want to discuss the heartbeat bill and its potential impact on women's rights.
Be informed, we gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me. Yeah, be in contact.
We have with us today Ms. Megan Gordan-Kane. She is a feminist and an activist. We're happy to have you here to talk with us about this heartbeat bill.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
So my formal title is Public Affairs Coordinator and Lobbyist. I work at Feminist Women's Health Center. We are an independent abortion provider and otherwise like reproductive justice center nonprofit. We do a lot of community outreach and education work, more so than you see at your average like healthcare provider. So we've been in Atlanta since 1977, I believe. Yeah, so we're pretty sure we're the oldest in the state, though I haven't, bothered to go back and check when every other abortion clinic in the state opened up. But yeah, so I work there and I do all of our state policy work. My job really revolves around our state legislative session, which runs about January to the end of March. So during that time, I'm running around the state capitol trying to move good laws, stop bad laws, help people understand what's happening in their state government. And the rest of the year, I'm either working on proactive legislation for the next session or doing a lot of workshops and trainings, helping people understand what has happened and also just how our government works and how folks can advocate in their state government, because most people don't know that you can just walk into our state capitol and like literally go find your state representative, like send a little note in them like, oh, please come out of the House chamber and talk to me because I need a minute of your time. Like you can do that. People do it every day and most people don't know that. So I help folks figure that out and learn how to feel comfortable in that process.
Now, you said that your facility is an independent abortion facility.
As opposed to, for example, like a Planned Parenthood that is like might be like a clinic that is a member of like a national network of clinics. When we say independent clinics, it means like it's just us. There's no like national Feminist Women's Health Center office. We're just us in that one building. Everybody's there.
And how is it funded?
Through a mix of grants and donations, and of course we charge for our clinic fees, so just a mix of all of that.
And what makes your place different from a place like Planned Parenthood?
Partly the independence. It has a lot to do with just the like internal flexibility that gives us. For example, I know my counterparts at Planned Parenthood have a lot more levels of internal bureaucracy they have to run through to do things. But also what makes us really unique, not just from Planned Parenthood, but from even the other independent abortion providers in the state, is the model we work out of and the way we do our work. So we're not just here to provide people health care. We work out of the reproductive justice framework, which was founded by Black women in the 90s in response to the ways that like white feminism and the like pro-choice movement had left them behind. So we look not just at your legal ability to have an abortion or like the actual provision of the healthcare. We look also at ability to have a safe and healthy pregnancy, to parent with dignity, to decide when and how to become a parent. And then, of course, the decision to have or not have a pregnancy and a child as you want. So that includes way more than like what you can do in a doctor's office. So we're also doing a lot of community education advocacy around a range of issues, everything from legal access to abortion care to economic justice, because like how like if you have the legal choice to have a family as big as you want, but the minimum wage in the state is $5.15 an hour, how meaningful is that legal right to an abortion anyway? Like how are you going to be able to parent with dignity if you cannot actually feed your children because our state policies are so out of date with what families actually need? So we're doing a lot of work like that in addition to just providing healthcare services.
So how did you get involved in this type of work? So when you say,
kind of a long story.
Tell me, girl.
Okay.
The short version.
So the like SparkNotes version. So my bachelor's program, everyone was required to write a thesis. I did not realize that this is not normal until I was like touring law schools. But every senior in that college had to write a thesis, and I wrote a comparison of the causes of mass rape and the genocides in Rwanda and Bosnia-Herzegovina, which is really fascinating because it's like similar time periods, but two very different geographies and cultures. So I thought it would be really illuminating, and it was. I found that, not to dive too into the details, but what led to this like outpouring of violence against women in these times of cultural instability was things that were already present in the culture when everything was peaceful and everything was happening, like the place of women, how women were considered and treated in the culture. And I realized that that wasn't just about that, like that's not just things that were present in those countries that made them weird. It was pretty typical things like how we think of women's sexuality and how we position men as like the guardians and protectors of women in their family. Like these things became causes for targeting women with violence in conflict. And so that to me, I think that was really when I became like a hardcore feminist, because I realized that all of these things exist on the same spectrum. Everything from street harassment to like women working outside of their home to like the ability to get an abortion and to like work without people like sexually harassing you are all sort of on the same spectrum. And we also know from research that happens a lot in the international development space that when women are thriving in their culture, everyone is going to thrive. If you lift women up, then they take their whole communities with them.
Yes, ma'am. So it's interesting because I have I have experience in public health as well. So it's interesting that you mentioned that and then you parallel that to what's going on right now and you think about the heartbeat bill. So when you decide to take this as a career path and then now you're an activist, you're like, okay, I'm a bona fide feminist. This is what I do for a career. And boom, in 2019, the heartbeat bill is placed in front of us. It's signed by a governor. What was your first reaction? Breathe in.
Well, so the thing is, during the legislative session, I don't have time to think about my own feelings because there's so much to do. So really my reaction was, okay, now what? Like literally, okay, next steps. What are we doing? We're suing. We're going to have to like mobilize people. Everyone's mad. Now what do we do? Like this is like a lot of folks I know were really upset and just felt as if like we'd lost, we're done. I was like, oh no. This was step one.
We're just getting started.
We are just getting started. So I just shifted immediately into planning like, okay, so now what do we do?
Okay, so we're gonna go into a commercial break, but I wanna ask you this and have you mull on this for a little bit. When we think about the fact that we've come a long way as far as women's rights concerned, you think about Roe versus Wade. So essentially, this heartbeat bill is overturning that in a sense. And it sets us back a long way, right? When we get back, I want you to answer this for me. When you think of the heartbeat bill and the way that it essentially disenfranchises women, does it also empower men if this were to go into effect? All right, so we're gonna let that sit and we'll be right back.